Well, to start with, I always watched my mother sew. And of course, at this point, I am a seamstress. And she sewed using a treadle machine, which meant that she could only sew as fast as she could pedal. And if she had lots of work to do, my sister and I got down and pumped the pedal for her. And she'd tell us when to slow up and speed up as she was sewing. And so I decided that that was something that looked interesting. I was an extremely curious person too. And so she says, I'm going to teach you how to use this machine so you don't tear my machine up. That was my foray into sewing and the possibilities of it, because it was exciting to be able to produce the power that made the machine move and work. And then I found out that I could speed up, slow down, but I'd never used an electric machine. I started that when I was 8 years old. By the time I got into middle school and high school, I was looking forward to home ec, get an opportunity to sew. And of course, that was the first time I'd ever used an electric machine. And my teacher would tell me that I needed to stop speeding. Well, you know, I know how fast I went with the treadle, so I figured I could do the same with the electric. I had several different jobs, and they didn't have anything to do with sewing, but sewing is what I did to feed my 2 children once I was divorced. I had to find a way to bring in income without leaving home. So I started taking in sewing and a little bit of catering on the side. But it gave me an opportunity to continue to grow the experience that I was getting by doing that kind of work. But I also went to the Goodwill and I got a man's jacket and I cut it in half and took it apart and put it back together just to see, you know, the amount of work and the tailoring that was put into it. And I worked at Van Dyne Karate for a period of time, which was a uniform place, and I considered that meatball sewing because it wasn't anything that was clever or interesting. So when I got off work, I'd go home and I'd sew on different things. After I got an opportunity to work on more refined pieces, it gave me an idea that the work that I had been doing to give for birthday presents and anniversaries and weddings, the work looked polished to me. And I felt like I was an artist, but nobody had ever said that to me about my work. Then I decided to do a festival, the Black Cultural Fest. And but I was afraid to do it by myself, so I asked my friend if she was interested. And she just had open heart surgery. And she says, well, I just had open heart surgery. I said, but your hands still work, right? And so she said yes. And we started off doing that. But what was so amazing to be a first time showing and people looking at your work and talking about you like you didn't stand there, you know, critiquing. But I found the critiques to be good, even if it was a negative. And so I'd look back at my work and wonder why someone would not have liked it or something about it that was distasteful. And I had a gentleman said that it was voodoo. And I said, voodoo? I said, oh my God, I'm gonna have to look into that. Because if I was doing voodoo, you would have bought everything that I have here. You would have had no choice. the first time I started doing that for the Cultural Fest, I felt like I needed to have names for my figures. And my parents always talked about people that they knew when they were growing up, and they were raised in Louisiana, Homer, as a matter of fact, Homer. And so some of the names were very interesting to me, and I made a doll named James Earl. The characteristics of James Earl, I felt should be looking like the way I thought somebody from the South, James Earl, would look like. And so I put some coveralls on him, but I went to the Goodwill and found an old suit that was back in the 40s and wool. And that's what I used to make his coat and pants. And then I used suede and leather to make the shoes. And I made him pigeon-toed. And he had a distinctive look about him. One that looked refined. And for me, the fabrics that I use for my dolls, in the beginning, most of what I used was from the Goodwill because there was such a huge variety. And to a certain extent, I was working in kind of a time period with some of the things that I did. And then I was looking for more exotic things. I would never have thought that I'd find fabric that reminded me of Africa from Walmart. But everything that they put on the bottom shelf that they didn't feel like would sell, it just lit up for me to use. I keep mentioning the library. The library was very good for me when I was looking for time periods and looking for history behind a piece, because everything has to have a story. If I'm going to sell something, I have to be able to introduce the person to the piece that they're looking at, what their background is, why I chose the color, why I chose the fabric. And sometimes even that makes a difference in what the stature of the piece is going to be, how delicate it needs to be, or how strong it needs to be, or for it to make the statement that I want it to make. Well, the first thing about my pieces, they do not have faces. They're black, and I want the nose to be prominent. I want the chin to be strong. I want them to stand tall when you look at them, because I'm working at putting character into the piece so that you understand that you're not just looking at a doll or a figure. You're looking at a person and the way he carries himself and the way he stands, the way he raises his head and his chin juts out. And I want you to look at it and almost see his face, because his character is right there for you to see. And they are black as I could find the fabric for their faces, because there's a richness in that. There's a value in that. And you won't see it if it's shaded or altered. Because when you say black, you know who you're talking about. But you need to see who they are about when you look at them. I gathered a way of speaking, the tilt of a head based on what you want somebody to understand about you, It makes a difference how you look at people. My mother always told me that you're going to have to learn how to read people. Don't just assume anything about them. You read them by the way they walk, the tilt of their hand, how they hold their shoulders. Now, right now, I'm coming forward talking to you because I want to be in your space, okay? So that I know you're really hearing everything that I'm saying. And my mother also told us that we come from kings and queens. And because we do, we have stature. And we carry ourselves like that. They don't have to know that you don't have, oil wells in the backyard, But it is how you present yourself to people. And that is what I work at putting in to the dolls. But the other thing that I've learned from having opportunities to meet a lot of people that are in the business of art or that are in business period is how to handle yourself when you're in that particular area. And never think that what you say is not important. The fact that you say it is what's important. Not who you say it to, but the fact that you do say it. Because a lot of times I think people automatically, I say people, I guess I really mean kids in school and things like that are trying to learn about themselves. One of the first things they say is, I don't know how to do anything. And I always say, well, I don't really believe that. When you got up this morning, you were a designer. You decided what kind of clothes to wear. You decided how you wanted to be perceived when you left your room after looking in the mirror. Okay. But what you didn't recognize was that you are the one that has to believe in you before anybody else does. And have the strength to be a little forward. If you want to know something, ask. And it never hurts to ask for help or be curious about what somebody's doing and why, And there are just a tremendous amount of things that you can end up learning about yourself. But the other thing that you have to learn as you're going forward is a lot of people don't know how to be humble. When you find out that you're good at something and that you're doing what you're doing, and you find that you're going to have to talk about yourself and the things that you have accomplished. I would never have thought that I would be published. I would never have thought I would have been interviewed on TV or that my pieces would appear in the newspaper, that I would travel out of state to talk about my work. And the thing about that is that you're going to be asked to talk about yourself. I mean, you have to do that if you go fill out an application and they ask you questions and then they ask you to, give us a little information about you. But the thing is, I found out that I have power. I didn't know that before. I probably had it but didn't recognize it and didn't use it. And as a result of going out in the public and showing my work and talking about it, and the more I do it, the deeper I am involved with what I do. And so it's a part of me every day. and it gets stronger. And that's one thing that you have to recognize, that your strength, what you have, and it's different for everybody. And it means that you're just like anybody else. You might not have the money that they have, but you have a brain. God has given you everything you need to get where you want to be. But you have to do the work. My mother always said, life is hard, but it's sweet. And that's the part that you want. You want the sweet part, but you got to work hard to get it, and you got to work hard to keep it. I work to have a life. I don't just work. I work for the kind of life that I want to have, okay? And the kind of people that I want to be in my life. Now, you mentioned Oprah. A lady came to one of my shows, and she was a designer, and she was putting her pajamas in Elder Beerman at the time. And all these women, here they come, gathered, you know, one worked with Martha Stewart, one with this designer, that designer. And I told my friend, I said, boy, they really trying to impress us, like, you know what? So she tells me that there's a doll of mine that she wants to buy, and she's going to give it to Oprah as a present. And she doesn't know whether she'll keep it because she keeps all her dolls in Indiana, things that people send her. And she gave me a phone number, told me to call in a matter of a few weeks, and that she could tell me whether or not she kept the doll and put it with her collection or not. And I was like, okay. She calls me, she's keeping the doll, and she just wanted to let me know. And I said, well, I really appreciate that. I said, that's a nice story that I'll be able to tell. But you never know who or what you're going to encounter, but know that you have the ability to be in that space. The only thing you have to do is put yourself there. You put yourself where you want to be.